an urban plan that's optimized for 4 million people is by definition not optimized for 6 million people. So if we do planning for 6 million people, and we have to grow our population to that, why have it? Why not just optimize for what we organically have?
Our population is already well above 4 million today. So, I mean, if we just plan on 4 million, that certainly is not going to work. But in my experience in government, in various sectors, whether it's I served in the Ministry of Transport before, I've served in the Ministry of Defence for a very long time. Some of the land planning decisions have actually got to be made for very, very long term, with a very long time frame. For example, when we built, let's say, Changi Naval Base or Changi Airport, or we build a new town, if we haven't thought of putting it there 20 or 30 years in advance, you can't do it when you need to do it. So you really have to think very far ahead when you do land and infrastructure planning. Because to move people or to move facilities when they're already there is very, very difficult and very, very expensive. So if you are able to anticipate and plan well in advance, then you can make your plans and make those moves in a well sequenced way with minimal disruption to others, to everyone in Singapore. What basis do we do for planning? I think what we look at is good city designs. What are good ways in which cities are designed to make them livable? And I would say that we have been reasonably successful in this several hundred square meters that we have in Singapore to have a city that is very livable. And that's because we've planned ahead. We have learned from other people what are good city planning, good design, and then try and incorporate those things early and to anticipate future needs. So if we're able to do that, then we will have a well-planned and good living environment. And that's why we need to do some of this anticipation for a variety of scenarios. And if you haven't anticipated ahead, then you will have a problem later on if you encounter that situation.
The idea I understand now is that this is given to people who are willing to make long-term commitment to Singapore. My question is basically this. Are PRs ever stripped of their PR status? Because to my knowledge, a lot of people take the PR ship, come to Singapore, buy their HDB or whatever not that they're buying, work here, and then at a certain age, return to their homeland and retire.
Yes. I'm now in the Ministry of Home Affairs. It's from time to time, I do get sort of proposals or submissions coming to me to remove PR from people. And if a person has left Singapore for a very long time and his re-entry permit expires, he also essentially has his PR removed. So that does happen. PRs can lose their PRship if they sort of lose their affiliation to Singapore, or if they've committed some crime or something in Singapore, they do have their PRships removed.
Have a robust discussion on the level of growth and the population number that we want. I think a sizable proportion of population would be willing to sacrifice a bit of growth in exchange for more space, so it's kind of a trade-off. The second point I want to make is I think we should probably try to move away from our current overemphasis on economic material well-being. They cut across multiple aspects, like PSLE and all that. So I think that's part and parcel of this discussion. If we're able to define success in a more general way, then maybe we can live with not so much money, so that maybe we don't need that much economic growth, and maybe you can then have a more sustainable population. Population
size and growth, and certainly this is one of the things which we we are discussing today what growth is needed to maintain and sustain a vibrant Singapore and the kind of Singapore that we want. And also, what kind of population? Because, as I described just now, one of the key things that we want to maintain is a sustainable citizen core of Singaporeans. And if we fail to achieve that, then actually we will sort of slowly decline, and what Gary described may well happen. Because actually by 2025, our Singapore population will start to shrink, our Singapore citizens. So this has implications on growth, this has implications on where we can go as a country and as a society. So indeed, this is a debate which we should have. And in one of the occasional papers that we put out, I'm not sure how many of you have actually seen it, by MTI, and this was about 3 weeks or a month ago. I think we should actually go and have a look at that and see, what are the issues there, and whether these are issues which actually should concern us, and have a good debate on that.
We've always prided ourselves on Changi Airport, and we always build advance of demand. Why do we not have done that for Singapore all this time? Why do we not just move Paya Lebar Airport, move the Istana away? Because then we can increase the gross plot ratio of all our Orchard Road and Town City. We can even increase our plot ratio, because the thing about our plot ratio is actually quite a joke, because you look at Novena and Newton, once we expanded that, you could actually accommodate so much more people. Let's increase the plot ratio throughout the whole island, including Bukit Timah, and make maybe landed property something that's so scarce that only it's an extinct species. But I think if we have to consider that clearly if we want to talk about 6.58 million, because if not, we are living in fairyland. If not, and the other thing is, I believe you didn't park here, so you probably walk here or take the MRT. Now, at the traffic light, have you ever noticed in the 80s, just crossing from Heron or Mandarin Hotel to over here, not much people, but now when the red or green lights turn on, you cannot finish everybody. Everybody cannot cross the light at the same time because our population is different. Why do we not make it mandatory? We have make it optional for building owners to interconnect themselves. But why not make it mandatory? Because in Hong Kong, the Ocean Towers and all, they're all linked up. You're like, hey, I'm just in another mall now, but it's all okay. Okay, Bukit Bintang does that.
And certainly, one of the issues and problems which we had was that the infrastructure as well as the population growth did not match with each other. And that's certainly one of the issues which we had going through 2007, 8 and 9. And so when we arrived at 2010, 2011, there has been a mismatch between the two. And we're trying to correct that now, and that's something which we acknowledge. So we have adjusted our PR population numbers. We're moving up on our infrastructure numbers and our infrastructure provision. And that's certainly something which we're doing, and to correct that. But there's something which I thought Yong Xiang put out, move the Istana, Paya Lebar Airport, increase the plot ratios, building of interconnections, and this whole series of things. Actually, I would say that is really out-of-the-box thinking. And if you are able to think in that way, then really we can envision a different kind of planning for Singapore. And I think that's the kind of planning that we should be thinking about for the future. And this is the kind of infrastructure planning which I think that URA and MND should be doing. Because if you want to do some of these things, you can't just do it like that. Because there are people to be moved, industries, and replanning, transportation, roads, and so on. So if you really think that these are things which should be done, you really need to plan ahead in time. That say, okay, it's a possibility that this can happen. This parcel of land, you're going to rezone it, say from industrial, where there's not very many people living there, now to high density housing. So what are you going to do? You actually have to then replan everything around there, transportation networks and so on. And you need a long lead time to do that. So in fact, Yong Xiang is absolutely right, and it's one of the things which we need to do to plan for the future so that we can make sure that the land planning and infrastructure is there to cater for various scenarios.